questions or comments or changes?
I would like to suggest a change on the second page at the bottom where it says, David Dixon complained about officers having to drive their personal vehicles to the academy. I'd like that reworded.
Let's see, where does it say that? Second page,
Second page at the bottom.
where she gets paid. Okay, second page here, David said he wanted this reworded, David Dixon complained about officers.
I want it changed or some similar to this, express concerns regarding.
Express concerns, there you go. We can do that.
To me, I think everything looks fine with me. Does anybody else agree with that?
Make the motion to approve them with the changes that David C. made there.
I second.
We'll get you a copy of that. Next meeting.
Now, who made the first and second on
I
that?
did, and, I think Yvonne made the second.
We've got some more stuff on here, but if it's all right, I'd like to skip on down to Chris Bradwich, since he goes to bed early because he gets up early. Is that all right with everybody? For him to give a report. Chris?
Should we take a roll call for?
Oh, yeah,
That's
we
right,
should,
we did.
thank you. Go ahead, I'm anxious to get Chris out here.
All in favor?
Okay, Chris.
Oh, I'm sure I know where the first one is. If I take my eye back.
You abstain. Go ahead.
Well, I understand you guys had some questions for me from the last meeting.
You all asked for him to be here to ask questions. So,
Well, are we needing to come, I guess, a little more up to date as far as any pumps or equipment that you're missing up there? Or that's torn down?
Well, we're holding pretty good at the water plant right now, but, you know, having similar, like, the same type of worry, you know, just the age of the pumps, and especially past couple of months where we've been having to throw some 24-hour shifts in, things like that. Still waiting for the master meter, and there's a other piece of equipment that goes with it. It's called an ACT pack, and it works along with the meter. It sends an electronic signal, and you can see what you're pumping. So really, right now, we're just kind of giving it a rough estimate on the water that we're producing. Still hadn't heard about when that's going to be coming in, but we really have to have that. Pumps are doing just fine at the plant. The biggest pumping issues we've had is at the lift stations. You know, it's just constantly trouble. These things can't get fixed soon enough.
Do you have all of our flow meters that are working right now, or alarms in case,
Right.
are all those functional?
Yeah. Yeah, the alarms are functioning. The only meter that's not working is our master meter. You know, that gives us our total.
Accurate of how much you're putting out?
Yeah, and be really helpful. And I contact the vendor there. Well, we're getting it through CL Boggs, and you know, stressing we really need this thing because you know it's a useful tool when we're looking for leaks. You know, because the thing shows you how many gallons per minute the pump is pumping, and if you go out and valve something off and you see a big change, you'll know what area. But
So until you get that, there's no real way to,
well,
unless you see a leak, there's no way to tell.
well, now
that
the
you're
mayor purchased a nice high-tech leak detection that we got it last month, Monday before last, and had Tim Blanton with Rural Water come in to take the boys out and get them acquainted with it, you know, and what to listen for and things like that. And
He was here for 2 days,
Yeah.
training, and looked at the leaks. And while he was here, they did find some leaks that you could not see with the naked eye.
Yeah.
So they're repairing theirs. Tell them about your new report that you're keeping on the water loss and
Well-
repairing lines and stuff.
Tim brought a program down, it's to help track water loss, so every time these guys go out and fix a leak, you get the size of the pipe, you get the size of the, whether it's a crack or a hole, and the amount of time it took to repair it, the amount of time that it's been leaking, and this thing has an automatic calculator in it. Once you put, you know, everything in there, it shows you exactly how much water you lost from that leak. So it'll create a spreadsheet, you know, with everything, be real helpful to show, you know, and be able to pinpoint more trouble areas where we're losing more water. Been having a lot of trouble around the Fairview area, and, it's not massive, what is that over there? Behind the, ambulance.
Martin.
Rescue squad.
Martin
Avenue,
Avenue,
yeah.
yeah, that's been a mess, but, been tough keeping up with everything, but, you know, the guys are handling everything pretty well.
When are the lift stations, they were supposed to replace 4 lift
Four,
stations?
four.
When are they gonna be started and finished?
They're already
They're
started.
started?
They've already
They've
broke
started
ground.
on 2.
Uh-huh.
Number 2 and, number 1.
Now, who are these, now remind me again.
Number 1 is down here on River Road, the last one going to the sewer plant. Number 2 is back here on Spring Street, and I think, Leo had told you that they can't do that until dry weather.
Yeah,
So they're actually only working on one, right?
2.
Well, they're back and forth, you know.
Yeah.
But,
They're letting something set while they go operate on another one.
So they're currently working on number 1 and number 4. up in,
They're projecting being through in July, but it may be September, depends on what I run into.
Yeah, that's
But
going
now,
on.
we will have, another thing that's in that grants, we will have generators for the water plant, for the sewer plant, for the lift stations, when we're through.
Did y'all have a lake up there, like going over to the Mexican restaurant? I saw some work being done over in there that, probably last week or so.
I think that's, no, we had a sewer, that pipe through there shooting across from Southern Wholesale. I believe there's a piece of broke pipe or something, but it's pretty routine every so often, you know, it does finally catch and eventually backs up, you know, Southern, so that's what they were doing the other day. But a lot of that, you know, just, really it's the leaks that are killing us right now. And, I'm gonna have Tim, Bland come, he's got a portable flow meter, I don't know if it'll fit, to see exactly what is coming out of the plant, it straps to the pipe. And, cause when we went to check the master meter, we had a really tough time getting the water off of it. You know, 'cause we took the turbine out of it, did some cleaning, and, you know, thought maybe we could just clean the thing up and put it back in and work, but it didn't. But the valve that we had to shut off was like super, super hard. And, there's a part of me can't help but think maybe this valve didn't open all the way. That may be contributing to some of the problems that, you know, we're just not putting out the volume of water that we should be. But there's no way of checking it without the backpack and the meter, so,
What about the, we had the sewer that ran out on the ground down here by the cemetery? That
Yeah.
problem fixed?
yeah, we finally found it. Some, gentleman
Well,
over in.
the state didn't come in and didn't find it.
Right.
They
Yeah,
couldn't find it.
They've been
Well,
getting
you could
complaints.
miss it, that smell.
Well, you would smell it, but you couldn't find it.
Yeah.
What's being done,
But the state even came in and it's been fixed now.
what's
So-
being done about the graves that were done with that sewage all over?
Well, we
Can
spread
clean
lime.
it up?
We spread lime on it, and once it finally does what it needs to do, we'll be back to get everything.
Yeah, they
cleaned
work
back
with
up.
the funeral home on that, so.
But the
I
pump,
just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
somebody's left one was taken care of.
No, they work with funeral home on that, and it was the really oldest graves that were out there that nobody even comes to anymore that got affected, but it didn't do any damage to anything. It was all surface.
yeah, the pump in number 7 lift station was hammered. And I don't know, there was an air relief valve on that pipe. I don't know if the hammering of the pump caused this thing, but this valve is like this, you know, it's a really big piece of metal. It had snapped, and me and Bill both were down in that area. We, you know, I went down by the riverbed, and you can get a whiff of it, but you couldn't see it. We thought maybe there was septic, maybe some septic tanks, maybe it overflowed. But, some fella reported to you that
No,
weekend?
and when I sent one of the boys out, he was over on the hill over there looking where we thought it was.
Mhm.
And some guy told him, said, well, I can take you and show you where it was, it's been about a month. I don't know why somebody hadn't called us and told us, but they didn't, and they took him right to it, and then when he called the state, he said, well, I was right up there and I didn't see it, I looked all over the place myself, couldn't find it.
Was it just bubbling up out of the pump station?
It was, see that valve sits in like a meter well?
Yeah.
You know, corrugated plastic, and it would, as the pump would, but it was hammering, because I was noticing it would come up a little bit, overflow, and it'd go back down, and that's how we found the pump hammering, and the thing was broke. They dug it out, and they had to replace some of the pipe, you know, some of the pipe was split too. I don't know if, as cold as it was, if maybe, because it wasn't that deep, you know, if maybe the thing had froze some, I don't know, but it's been
Is that,
taken
is
care
that
of.
one of our fairly new lines that was put in down through there? Is it, well, I guess what I'm asking, is it metal or?
It was
plastic?
PVC, yeah. That's when, I guess Bridhaven, when they used to have the pump station at their facility, that's the line that they had installed. So when the new pump station was put in, they just tied into that line. So I don't know how old it was, but.
The master meter, the Boggs guys repairing it or replacing it with a new one?
It has to be replaced. It's,
How much is that gonna cost the city?
The meter itself is $4,800.
Oh,
The Act Pack is $800. Now, that doesn't include,
So we're looking at about 5,600.
That's with
that
labor
doesn't,
and everything?
that doesn't include labor.
Well, for all the leaks that they're finding, you also have to buy equipment to replace, to do the work with.
Yeah,
And
we-
plus, how many meters have we used this year? And we're-
Oh, we're going through meters.
I mean, we're going through meters like hotcakes through this winter.
When we replace the meters, does the citizens pay for that, or does the city
No,
pay
city
for it?
pays for that, that's our
So
part.
that's about, what is that, $350 a meter, is that what
No.
it is?
No, it's $70.
Oh, 70, oh,
That's what they charged
oh, okay.
custom.
A lot of, I've noticed a lot of the meters that, I guess they've set along the traffic either drives over them or something, but they get pushed down to where actually they're near where they can freeze. And I guess that's why we're losing some of them. We might wanna look at the ones that are close to the ground and have them buried a little deeper, or put some insulation or something around it to
Yeah,
keep that
definitely
freezing.
insulation, yeah. I mean,
But some of them are, I've seen them, they're not that far from the
Right.
ground that's covered.
And the
Yeah,
strangest
you
thing,
can
sometimes
leave it up to
those,
the customer though, to put insulation
No,
down,
that's our
not
meter.
ours.
It's our meter, we'd have to cover it. At the
Well,
meter.
we gotta have money to do that, we can't replace lines and,
We
that's
can either
something
do that
else.
or spend money buying busted meters.
well, we gotta have money to do it all.
you know, you can buy rebuild kits for the meters, you know, and that's a cheaper alternative. So, you know, you can buy the plate and the seal. Sometimes it does damage the inside though, it's all plastic, and if the plastic snaps, then you've gutted your meters, so.
The
The
ones
Some of
we-
these meters are sold too, that it's a major test to replace some of them. You know, because I looked at one of the red meters.
The old ones we take out, or we saving those to take off for scrap? I know they're brass.
We just keep them there at the water plant. So I'm looking into getting the kits, seeing how many we can actually prepare and reuse them. See, a lot of them were pulled from accounts that, were either closed or delinquent. And so we keep them in the basement there. And we normally don't use a meter that already has an account set up and use it somewhere else, you know, in case somebody hooks back up or.
But if you have to.
Right,
You can
sure.
use it if it's a working meter.
I know it's Mr. Shepherd's here, so do you wanna talk about what all we've done for him?
Yeah, we've had, some problems up there. His line had blew apart, they found it, coupled it back together. I went out personally about 3 weeks ago and checked his pressure. He had, it would fluctuate between 30 and 35 to 38 on his house, and at his meter he had 50 to 55. It would top out at 55 and it dropped to 50, which that indicates a leak. But now when Tim Blanton was here and Greg Merman with he he's the representative that owns, or works with the company that sold us the leak detector. While they were out, they went out, they listened to everything, they couldn't find anything. And, Dave Messer came in Friday before last, and he went up and he put his pressure gauge on, and he found 40 pounds on his house, but there was the fluctuation at the meter. So there's something happening in the bottom somewhere that's robbing his pressure at the meter. Do you have check valves on your line to keep
I
that?
had one put on it.
You do? That's why it was holding at his house, but it wasn't at the meter. And like these pump stations, anytime you have a leak, you can see that on the suction gauge. You know, that pressure will fluctuate.
Well, his line keeps freezing because it's on top of the ground, and we're gonna have to have some effort to wrap that going down that hill or something.
Yeah.
Because if he hasn't earned a little bit of freeze, he has no
Right.
water. I mean, he's went, if I'm not wrong, a month and a half
About
without
6
water.
weeks.
Giant come out there, he put the meter on and it's sitting there, jumped, the meter would. I asked him what that was, he said they got a leak somewhere. And of the morning when they got the pumps on, I can't tell it. But when the pumps had cut off the night, the water slows down, you set your water, it's out there and jerks. That's indicating there's a leak somewhere. And when I get up in the morning about 6:30 in the morning, I can look down the road, and the road's wet down there where there's water seeping up through the blacktop. Then when the car starts driving by all day, they fan that wet spot and dries it up. Get up the next morning, it's wet again. Be dry as it can be, the rest of the road except for right there where that leak's at.
So how long have you been, were you without water there at one time?
How long was you without water?
Mm.
He said, how long was you without water? When your water was froze up?
I was froze up the whole month of January except for 2 days. I got water 2 days out of January is all I got.
So did you have to buy water and
He said, did you have to buy water? Did you have to buy water?
No, I got it up to her house, got Benham water. I was closer to pack it that way than it was packing it long distance. I tell you what, y'all need to do something about the water situation out there. The last 2 years, that line is broke 9 times out there. And every time that I called the city clerk, told her there was a leak, they come out there was a leak. I won't say something if I don't know what I'm talking about. And there's a small leak out there on that line that's while that water is standing in that road like that early in the morning. But I can't do nothing about it if it slips that road off out there. It's about 200 foot from a break out there right now. And
Did
if it's,
Jim go out there when he was in, did he find any leaks?
Or they listen to
There
us
wouldn't be
meeting.
no indication of a voided water stream under that, would there?
There is runoff that comes down through there. His water line goes through a culvert, there's some galvanized, and I went on the other side of the bank to try to find the other end of the culvert that maybe, because it's old galvanized, and I thought if we replaced that galvanized and ran PVC, it'd help him with his pressure things.
What is the normal output pressure for most houses?
Well, like I said, when I checked it, he had 50 to 55 pounds, and he was up on the hill. It varies.
Yeah, I know it would vary, but they should be, is they close to the normal output pressure?
Well, the state requires a minimum at 20, but they want at least, 28. When it gets below 28, they get huffy. But, we've been out, and we've went every time, and we've looked, we've dug, we've listened, that leak can be somewhere in that bottom that's good enough that can be affecting him.
He's had this problem about 15 years, and then what you told him? And then what you told him
He said,
last?
she said, you had that problem about 15 years, is that what you told her?
it's been out there about 15 seconds. When Darrell Roberts was mayor,
Yeah, I
and
know
when
he
they
told
put
me
that
he'd been having
plastic
problems
line
ever
in.
since. Would a pump on his part help him out any?
Well,
If he purchased a pump to get it up there?
there are people at higher elevations that do install a system like that. They'll have a tank under their house, and they'll put a pump as the water comes and fills the tank, or he could put an inline pump on, you know, that would pull it directly from the line, but if you don't have the suction, and that's the whole thing, the thing will, it's fluctuating. It was more when Messer put his on there. I think it bottomed out
Well,
like
too,
30.
it won't help with freezing, I mean, our part, which belongs to the city, is laying on top of the ground, and needs to be wrapped, so that every time we have a light freeze, he doesn't go without water. And we have to,
Is there a spray foam you can
Well,
pack that with foam and?
foam wrap.
It's in the ground, but it's so rocky, I mean, you know, yeah, we can go out there and maybe see if we can trench it down deeper and,
I mean, when I walked it, it's laying on top of the ground, 1 inch black line,
oh,
probably a couple 100 feet.
Well, when I went up
As soon as you
there,
come out of
I
that
couldn't see
culvert
it.
you're talking about,
mhm.
it's, the leaves have lightly blowed over it, but it's on top of the ground. You can pick it up, shake it. goes
That day
all
you and
in
I
there.
were up there, Chris, we didn't even see it, it was.
No,
I walked over the.
They could shorten that line about 800 feet out there if they could do it, if they won't do it. There's a piece of land there, probably about 150
years
foot.
ago, I mean, really, 15 years ago, you just wonder how
That
much
was
you put
15
in like
years
that.
ago, we've been having a problem ever since.
I mean, you can come from Railroad Street and come up to the last house and walk, and you can pick up the line on top of the ground all the way up.
It can't be dug.
Like I say, it's a shame.
He's right, it's a lot of rock, but there's a lot of places where it ain't rock that it can be buried.
Depending how deep the rock is, you know, we used to do a lot of horizontal drilling, which is good. You drill your horizontal underneath the rock bed, which is not that expensive, then run your line underneath through the horizontal hole, and then it would be, never would freeze.
And two, you could talk to David Kennedy, they have that machine that goes under the road.
right.
To where if we have to run a new line from Railroad Street up to where that's at, and you got to the road, I'm sure they would, I'm not gonna vouch for them, but I'm sure they would
That
help
would
us out.
eliminate his freezing problem,
The freezing problem, I can't, there's no justification for the freezing problem when it's laying on top of the ground.
Right.
I mean, I can't help it how long it's been there, and it's a problem and it needs to be addressed.
I could check and see, you know, I'm not really familiar, I mean, I've been out when they bored under the highway, but as far as boring
Yeah,
up
the
or down.
horizontal drills that they got now, and a lot of these contractors uses it when they're installing water
Like they
spray
did the bridge.
systems and everything like that, you know? And they, I mean, you can give them they will bend 90s, 45s and everything, and then you put a special tubing in there for that, and I mean, that would stop the freezing permanent.
It stays frozen up half the time in the winter. Every other day it gets down below about 10 degrees, it's through.
It's right, it's up right there.
If it warms up the next day, I've got water, if it don't, I'm frozen up till it does warm up.
It needs to,
Yeah.
to stop that problem.
We've been doing, Chris and the boys have been doing everything they possibly can, we're just gonna have to figure out what to do, but I mean, it's not, we haven't neglected him, Chris has definitely not
It's
neglected
not-
his problem.
It's not about
He's been
neglecting,
there.
it's about
So we're just gonna have to figure out how to do
fixing the
this.
freezing problem.
And probably it's not been that cold, you know what I'm saying, like what we've had in winter this year, so I guess it definitely.
This has been a terrible winter, so
Yeah.
we've had,
If you go down on Railroad Street and come up that way, and Bill Shears was there, he can show you where he started finding it. I mean, it's laying right on top of the ground.
Yeah,
I've never seen, I know you all didn't do it, this has been done that way a few years ago, but I can't believe it got by that way. And then out there where it goes through the culvert, there's two just like garden hose cutoff valves that somebody put on the water line.
you should see some of these lines, it's so, I've been out there
And
with.
again, I know you all
I can tell you
didn't.
what they look like.
Somebody did.
Chris is also the supervisor of the sewer too, so Chris needs to give you a quick report on the sewer plant. That's another story altogether.
they had the initial agreed order, which wasn't signed, it was just
Yeah, we're not under an agreed order.
so.
It's just,
What we did, we went through that initial order, which, you know, wasn't official, but that's what they're concerned with. And went through and, wrote to state what things we've been doing different, you know, far as record keeping, live state, I mean, just, there was a bunch of things that weren't being done that, you know, were just not being done. So, in response to that, enforcement sent, the mayor a letter 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's almost like how would you say it, an amended type thing that we would have to agree to it. That's gonna be included in the agreed order.
There's several amendments,
Mhm.
several amendments.
So if we didn't accept that, you know, then they would send it on to court. So,
But now, I mean, we've got all kinds of major problems down there that we've got to get after. We've got to, one thing is we have to have, backup hunts for everything.
you know, that,
And we've been working on hunts, but we don't have any backup hunts this week.
that place is,
Well,
will be
antique
something.
is what it is.
There's no grit removal on the process at all, and that's your worst enemy at a sewer plant. It destroys your pumps, it clogs your plumbing, and I guess the grit removal hadn't worked in decades, according to Gary. I don't think he ever saw it work, but, that needs to be addressed, you know, the redundancy in the pumps.
Well, the
It's
grid
basically
removal's been
everything.
down for 27 years,
Yeah.
but we've got to fix it.
You know, in the order, they include I&I, you know, the sanitary sewer evaluation study that they want done by, you know, a certified engineer. You know, a lot of that, there are quite a few things we can do, but it'll be costly as far as,
Well, it's like the smoke detection we have to do of our lines. I checked on that, and they will do the smoke detection, but we have to buy the cartridges, the smoke cartridges.
you know, Rural Water's agreed to help quite a bit.
Rural Water's
You know,
gonna help us all we can.
They can help with all the planning and, you know, like line inspecting. They've got the cheapest, amount for lining. They charge $1 per foot, whereas if you went to an engineering firm, it's gonna be $3 more per foot, and the operator's free. That would help. Everything's included with that. I mean, every manhole, it's gonna be massive. I mean, there was a
From
representative.
what I read on it, was gonna be massive.
Well, and
We even asked a question, Chris, would you be able, or how are you gonna be able to handle all that stuff? Do you feel like you're gonna be able to, comply, I should say comply with what they're asking?
Well, you know, as far as the documents that they're requesting, you know, Real Water, you know, saved the day over the water plant. You know, they came right in and they
Have to
spent a lot of
big
time, you know, with these manuals and plans and programs and things, you know.
Comply, they get you started and everything, but then they back off and then it's still your responsibility.
Exactly. Well, you know,
Still the city's responsibility.
absolutely. Every manhole, I mean, they want this I&I, which is your biggest, you know, I mean, it just blows everything out. You're wasting money, you know, pumping rainwater and all that. Me personally, you know, I'll take it as it comes.
Yeah, I know, you know.
But, you know,
It'd be hard.
it's really gonna be,
Which makes
tough
me think
financially.
too, which brings me to the thing, you know, they say you go home sleep. What hours do you work, Chris, on? Do you work night shift?
I'm 6 to 2. Well, now I have.
6 of morning
Right,
to 2 of evening?
yes.
Okay.
Now, I have came in for some extra shifts, like come in at 10, you know. And
But that's your
work
regular time, ain't it? 6 of the morning to 2.
6 a.m.
Yeah.
till 2 p.m.
Then if emergency arises, you come out.
Yeah.
About that, okay.
And we've had to utilize them. And that's another thing, see, the boys are actually going to class and getting CEUs and taking tests, trying to upgrade. And if they, I mean, everybody's getting
Yeah.
their classes, and that's another thing that we're having to keep up with, and that causes a shortage sometimes, and Chris might have to come in or something, or one of the other ones might have to come in.
Yeah, we have to have so many hours in with the state to renew our licenses, you know. But, you know, now that the weather's warmed up some, we're getting caught up somewhat, you know, on the tanks. But,
And we're hoping we get out there for leak detector now and start finding some.
well, I sent them out today to go up, because we're getting a complaint up at high elevation also. And, we fixed a leak on that line last Friday. It was leaking at a T. And, run into the fellow Saturday, he said he had better pressure before we even fixed the leak.
Maybe you might leak somewhere else when you fixed it.
So, but you know, I might be stepping out my bounds, but I'm thinking, they keep talking regionalization, and as much, as much is gonna have to be done down there. I can't understand why the repairs that would be needed to be made couldn't include in the future, because eventually regionalization will have to happen. And, it would need to handle Bitumen Lynch too,
I think these lift stations would be able to do that. I think that's the reason they're so big. The new ones are putting in.
Yeah, they'll be throwing the flow to it.
Yeah.
But you always have a plant big
They're
enough
huge.
to-
The plant
Right.
has to be
Yeah,
a car.
lift stations, do it.
Well, and that's the thing now,
It's
can't
like
hardly,
coal preparation
we can't
plants.
handle what we've got now.
Can't run more coal, they should raise your plant.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, didn't somebody apply for a grant, or helping us apply for a grant for the plan?
Yeah, they put one in, but that doesn't, the grants, we're going to, a meeting next week again. But, there's shortage of monies. When I went to the last meeting, they said, anybody that hadn't spent their money that they had for a grant, that they were gonna ask them to turn it in if they hadn't completed the project, cause they needed to get more projects done. So everybody's short.
They did, Leo Miller submitted a project for us as far as the rehabilitation down there, some things that could be, done.
It was just basic, it was a shortened down version of what we need. It wasn't a drastic overhaul, it was just something to help us out. Start little and go big.
Well, the thing is if these things have to be addressed, we can't sit around and wait on a grant, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're gonna try to figure out how we're gonna get something to cover this, that's my opinion. I mean, I don't know where it's gonna come from, how we're gonna do it, but you can't run a city unless you got the money to take care of what we're gonna take care of. Is there any kind of estimate as far as cost? Like right now, there's just so much that we can't even come up with it probably at all.
No, there were a couple engineering firms that came to, go down there and look over the plant and.
Have they gave you a list of, things that has to be placed and everything, Chris?
It's not an actual list, it's just things they tell you
Waiting
that
on
you need to
national
replace.
estimation.
I've not received anything from there was a Lane group and, I don't know what Leo included in the project, I've not actually seen the project. I don't even know if it's been assigned a number, they have to be assigned a project number for it.
You can get on that website and see, cause that's the way they're doing it now, they're sticking them right on there. So,
Like I said, I don't have the first.
Probably be, well, I know it'll be a lot of renovation. Most time when engineers does projects like that, they break it right down to maintenance parts.
no,
and
we don't
costs
have
and
anything like that, cause there's a cost that applies to
Yeah.
that, if you ask
I
them
mean,
to
the
do
person
that.
that would be beneficial to, if you're gonna do all that, really.
Well, Charles had a good suggestion about, any special funding we did get in for it to be put only in its own account for repairs.
Yeah.
Not
No more
touched for
dumping it
anything
in-
else.
No more dumping it in the general fund,
Yeah.
because it just goes for wages and doesn't
That-
get
I
used for
thought that was-
repairs at all.
That'd be just for the funding of the, whatever it takes to.
Does anybody have any more questions for Chris?
Got a lot of good information from
Yeah.
you. We really did.
Call me anytime.
I don't have a question, but I wasn't here at the last meeting, I don't know if you were here or not at the last one, but kudos to you and your guys. I'm
Well-
telling you, with the weather like what it was and stuff, and you all were running to death, and I know you probably went without sleep and everything else, good job.
Hey, those guys
Yeah.
have really had it tough the past
Yeah.
2 months.
It's been really
Good job to you
really
and all the
has.
guys, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the city's fortunate to have them on their side.
Right.
The weather's been a big factor.
Yeah, it's
Right.
exciting.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Have a
Go
good
bed,
one.
go bed now, Chris.